Hey there, people of Springfield. This is Grow Me Something Mister coming to you from Bright Gardens. I'm going to show you how to make a bread recipe. So I probably don't need this hat. A few basic ingredients. Really, I have a bunch of other stuff to accentuate the flavors. But basically, you need yeast, water, flour, salt, sugar. Some people say you really don't need the sugar, but I have here my basic recipe, which is a cup of water. I use a teaspoon. For the yeast, you could use the rapid rise yeast, which is basically a packet, maybe 2 1/4 teaspoons. I don't bother with that. And this recipe, I'm going to add a 1/4 stick of margarine. You can use butter, whichever the case. I have my yeast in here already, so I'm going to pour my warm water in right now. And I'm also going to put in sugar. My normal recipe, I put 1 to 2 teaspoons of sugar in with the mixture, but this time I'm just going to go shy of 1 teaspoon. That's going in for the yeast so it can be fed, so it can start bubbling up. I think I can actually use this yeast right away, but I always do it the same method to make sure it's alive. So I mix it up, and I just put it into a little warm spot so it can start getting frothy. I usually let that sit 5, 6, 7 minutes. Okay, so my mixture is a little frothy. I moved it around. When you start moving it around, it knocks the air bubbles out. First thing I'm going to do with this is I'm going to add my wet ingredients. So that's my margarine that's melted. You can use butter if you want. I have margarine, so that's what I'm using inside of the recipe here. I'm going to crack my egg. Normally, I just use the yolk and the white of the egg. I put inside the container here and then eat that as a chef's snack. Of course, you throw away your eggshell, correct? Of course not. You keep the eggshell, microwave that so it doesn't get any kind of bacteria on it. And then what you do is that goes into your compost pile. Okay, we have vanilla here. You can put vanilla to taste, maybe a teaspoon or something. I don't measure it. I'm just going to pour some in. About like that works for me. Alright, so then we're just going to crack that egg, mix that just a little bit. So that's our wet ingredients. So now we start adding the dry ingredients, and for me, it's going to be some, I have all-purpose flour here. You can use some wheat flour, you can use whatever type of flour you like. It doesn't really matter. At this stage, I haven't put salt in yet. I like to put the flour in first to get in some of the liquid. You can use like 4 cups of flour, something like that. The flour you need is the flour it takes. So you can't ask me really, well, how much flour are you using? I'm using enough to make a dough. So today it could be 4 cups, tomorrow it could be 4 1/2 cups. I don't make that much bread, so that will be today and tomorrow. So I have a base of flour here. I'm going to be adding some powdered buttermilk. Normally my recipe is 1 cup of liquid. In this case, if I was using actual milk, I would use perhaps a 1/2 cup of milk and 1/2 cup of water. I'm using buttermilk here. It's powdered, so 3 teaspoons for the tablespoon required for that part. You don't have to use this. I use it because I have it. I have some Clever Girl baking powder, so I'm going to put that in there just to laugh about it. That's about maybe a teaspoon, something like that, depending on what you want. You don't have to use it. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. I'm going to use some cinnamon. That goes into the recipe as well. I'm going to use a teaspoon of salt. You have to have salt. It's a weird thing. You think you don't have to have salt when you're making bread, but it tastes horrible when you don't have salt. So that's most of my dry ingredients, along with the wet ingredients. The other thing I'm going to use is some dried cranberries. Normally I like to make this dish with golden raisins. The store doesn't have golden raisins, so I'm going to use dried cranberries. Now they say you should taste everything before adding it in, and it tastes good. So how many dried cranberries? How much do you want? So this is my normal batch, like I said. Let's see. Put a little bit more just to make it a little better. That looks good enough right there. What we do is we just start mixing this together to create a dough. It could be wet, It could be starting to get dry. You just mix it until you get what you need. By the way, I like this bowl that I use, and I like this. It's a Christmas spatula. It has a little snowman on it. My mother gave it to me several years ago, and this is the best spatula that I found to use to mixing up my doughs. So I've tried other spatulas. I mean, they mix things around, but they don't mix it the way this one does here, so I'm really happy to have this as part of my kitchen and bread making setup. Here we go. I didn't get to mention that there's two components to making this type of bread. One is the requirements for the dough, and the other is the requirements to put the whole thing together. So I'll have to put that under the description as to what part is what, because I don't want to make sure I don't forget anything while making this. So you can see it's kind of coming together. Actually came together. I did wash my hands, they're clean. I washed my countertop, that's clean as well. So it's sticky. I don't really have to go any further with it as far as putting flour into the bowl, but what I'm going to do is put flour onto my bench. So let's get close up on that. I'm going to show you how I'll knead this. Alright, so we'll put some flour down. I know I'm going to need a good bit of flour. I don't like to plop it down too much, but I'll go wide with it. That way I can get a lot. Don't stick my hand in the bag all that much. You can see the consistency. Sticky. Kind of looks like, I don't know, maybe like a thick oatmeal, which is nasty oatmeal. So that's it there, all sticky. It's perfectly fine. Now what I'm going to do is, so I know I need it, I'll put some flour inside my bowl. No need to waste the dough that you just made. So I take that and I just scrape it around. That way I can dry up all the bits inside, try to pick it up. You don't have to do this. If you want to, you can just leave this step out and throw it away, whatever. I figured there's no need to throw it away because there's too many people that want to eat what I'm making. And they'll be angry if they found out I threw away something that they could have been biting into. So that's it. So the bowl is fairly cleaned out. Basically, I just leave it like that until it's time to spray later on. So we'll get some of the flour on top of this, use my fingers, scrape that off. I don't need the spatula right now anymore. Next time I'll use a spatula will probably be when it's time to spread the butter margarine inside the dough once it's been formed. You'll see that later once everything's ready. So there you go, we got clean spatula. We'll get a little bit more flour, the flour in the hands, and we'll start kneading. Different methods to knead. People knead things differently. I knead this the exact same way, basically every single time. It's the only way that I really know how to do it. And as they say, if something works, you don't need to change it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So this is it right here. We'll take it slow with this. So here's the dough. I pull it into me, so it's folded basically in half. I smush it down, so it's longer this way. I turn it, grab it here, pull, and it's the same thing. It's basically quarter turns. There's people that say you need to knead for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I don't know about all that. I don't know how many times I turn it. I don't know how long I'm doing it. Alright, sorry about that, everybody. I ran out of space on my camera card. This is the dough here that I came up with. By kneading it and then making a ball, spraying it with some Pam type spray inside, covering both sides of the dough, covering it in the plastic bag and throwing it into the oven, unheated oven, if it's warm enough. If not, if it's cold or something, heat it to like 80 degrees, something like that. You can use a terry cloth towel, anything like that to cover it. I use the plastic bag, it's just easier. So now we're going to start forming each individual loaf. I'm going to be putting them in this little loaf pan right here, 4 individual ones. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to feel it, see how tacky it is. It feels a little tacky. The dough looks really nice, but I'm going to add a little bit of dough, flour. Let's go ahead and just sit this out. There you go. That's a nice looking dough. It smells really nice. It feels really good. One thing I need to get that I didn't think about bringing with me is my cutter. So here's my bench cutter here. I'm going to cut this obviously into 4 pieces because I'm making 4 small loaves. And just looking at it, this dough looks really nice. Very soft, very pliable. Okay, so a little tacky. We'll just cover it a little bit. We don't want to make it too wet. We don't want it too dry either. So it's in a little pie shape. We're going to go with like a rectangular shape. Make it like a log so that we can actually roll it into the pan. So what I'm going to do is just pattern it out. Don't want it really too wide. You want it maybe 4 inches wide, 3 inches wide, something like that, because it will expand. So it's a little short. It could have gone a little bit longer of a rise. That's perfectly fine. Alright, so what I do here, I have my margarine separated out, each of those sticks. Little quarter pack type thing. So I'm going to use that. I'm just going to spread this. You know what I should have done. No, this is fine. Spread this out. It's perfect. Soften your butter a little bit. I take that out about maybe 10 minutes before it's about ready, so that it gets good and soft, so that you can actually spread it. You don't want to melt the butter or the margarine, whatever you're using. So that's it there. Have that on. Break up any clumps of the brown sugar. Now, if people like cinnamon, you can tap more on, so I'm going to tap some cinnamon onto this. And what happens is, as it cooks, with this cinnamon and brown sugar, it makes a nice type of, I don't want to say glaze, but like a syrup type thing. Really nice. You can add more, raisins or whatever you want, cranberries in this case, whatever you want to add. This is fine enough for me here, and I'm going to sprinkle it on. I don't want to sprinkle a whole lot because it is a lightly sweetened type dessert bread, breakfast bread, whatever. Get to the edges. You don't want to shortchange anybody. So I do have cinnamon inside of this mixture, and the brown sugar splenda type combination. You can find that in the stores. Alright, we'll take this, form it a little bit, and we just roll it up. And then just pinch the edge. Just get that good and pinched. You want to seal it. Seal the edges about. Just kind of smush that together. Nothing fancy. I'm not working in a French restaurant or anything like that. Alright, so that's it there. Your little log. I always put the seam side down. It looks a little long for the pan, so I'll just kind of smash it in there. When you're eating it, you're not going to notice any different. You're not going to really care any differently. The only thing you're going to care about is that you ran out of the bread. Try this recipe. If you try it, make a video of it. Post a comment, send me a message or whatever. Let me know how it turned out. If there's any kind of problems that you ran across, any questions, let me know as well. Okay, so everything is filled, everything's wrapped up. I sprayed a Pam-type product underneath each of these mini loaves of bread so that it makes it non-stick. I'm going to put this into the bag, and this will go into an unheated oven. As I said, if it's cool or something like that, heat your oven to like 80 degrees or something like that. Turn the oven off and then throw this in for, what I do is I throw it in for a half hour. Let it rise in the oven a half hour or any other warm place. Out of a draft, out of any kind of air conditioning or anything. Then after a half hour, I take this out, I put it to the side, and I turn my oven on to about 385, and I let it roll. Once it comes to temperature, then I take the bag off, and I throw this in the oven for about a half hour or something like that. It could be half hour, it could be 35 minutes. It depends on your oven, depends on the temperature, and it just depends on that kind of day. Alright everybody, the bread is finished baking, it just beat. Before we continue on, go ahead, go to your kitchen real quick, get some cinnamon, get some syrup or brown sugar or something like that. You can pause this video, but we're going to make this interactive. When people say smell-o-vision, go ahead and get those materials. Cinnamon, some brown sugar, and some syrup of your choice. Pause this video. Okay, so you went to your kitchen, got what you needed? Let's go. It should be ready. Smell it. Go ahead and put those things up in front of your nose and smell this. Smell it, look at it. It broke down a little bit on me the side. I wanted to cut it, but that's a nice size, nice color. From out here it sounds pretty good. The thing that we need to do is get this on a cooling rack so it can start drying out a little bit. We don't want the bottom to be soggy or anything like that. It's hot. This smells so good. Woo! Alright, one more. It's coming out pretty easy. Woo! Look at the color. See if we can show that. Woo! It's hot. Nicely colored. Nice brown. Let's test it out. Let's see what the sound is. I don't know if you can hear that. It's quite warm. It's quite hot actually. So, normally this should cool down for, 2, 3, 5 minutes, something like that. I don't have the time for it. I know the person who's waiting for this right now, he'd rather that just went straight to him. So, what we need to do, as always, before we serve anything to anyone, is to taste it. So, I'm the only one here, so, I guess that duty falls to me. So, let's get our margarine ready. And in fact, what I'm going to do is anoint one of his with some margarine. So we're just going to take that and slather it all on top. Let it melt right inside while it's still hot. Wow. Alright, that's enough of that one. Let's take one. I'll take the smallest one. We'll take this one here. And let's cut it. Like I said, normally I like to let it go for a minute. So let me just tell you what I did real quick. I had it in the oven for about 385, my temperature. I have a temperature gauge in my oven that tells me the actual temperature as opposed to the temperature on the screen. It's an older oven. So I had to kick it up to about 400 degrees, 395 to actually get to like a 385 temperature. So that cooked, had that for about 25 minutes, 27 minutes. Different ovens varies. This isn't a full-size oven. So, it smells so good. Go ahead and smell the condiments you have in front of you. It's so good smelling. Let's get this cut. I know I don't have a bread knife. I need to get one. Outside has a nice crust. It is still blazing hot. Everything smells good. Everything looks good. Of course, I'm not gonna leave you without getting a taste test. So, it's a little hot still. It's best if it cools down. That way it can set up a little bit. I'm gonna put some margarine on this real quick. Normally, when I taste things, I like to taste it before adding anything extra, and then I'll add the stuff afterwards. The inside looks perfectly cooked, looks really well done. Not well done like a steak, but well done as far as properly done. We gotta get this tasted real quick. It's so good. It really is. Better than Yoplait. As Justin Wilson will say, I don't know how to do it every time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a close-up of this so you can see the swirl and you can see what things look like. There it is right there. Go ahead and get a good look. You can see the different coloration. Looks so good. Check it out. It tastes good. The Golden Raisins will probably taste better, but that's the way it is. So, alright everybody, I'm going to continue eating this, and I'm going to bring this to someone. He's going to enjoy it, I'm sure. So, I harvested a couple of okra earlier today, so that's it. This is Grow Me Something Mister at Brighter Gardens. And remember, well, I don't really have an exit line, so see you later everybody.